What's going on? Thank you so much for stopping by the channel again. My name is Stevey Luke. Merry Christmas Eve. Happy holidays. Hope you guys are having a good holiday season. I know I am, because I just saw a little movie known as Aquaman. This movie came out this past Friday. I didn't get the chance to go see it until Sunday, which was yesterday. So I wanted to give you guys a little spoiler review here, give you guys my thoughts on the movie and how I think it adds up in the DCEU or Worlds of DC or whatever they're calling it nowadays. So before I begin, this is going to be a spoiler review. Just want you guys to know that. So if you haven't seen the movie yet, click away right now. I'll be coming out with a spoiler-free review either later on today or tomorrow. So stay tuned for that. If you have seen the movie, stick around. I'm going to be talking about some awesome stuff. And if you're in the chat, throw your thoughts in the chat. If you're not, throw your thoughts down in the comments below. What do you think about Aquaman? So let's jump right into it. First and foremost, my overall thoughts on the movie. It was very good. It was very, very good. I think they did a good job of forgetting everything that happened in the past. Like Batman v Superman, what? Justice League, what? We never did those movies. This is just focusing on this. That's one of the things I think this movie did very good, was keeping it separate from their failures. They acted as if that those were separate movies and that this movie was just about Aquaman, just about his story. I thought that was a good idea. And it was just a fun, adventurous movie. You know what I mean? They had a set goal, had an objective. There was good plot. There was good character development. It was a good turnaround in the DC movies. You know, as far as Justice League goes, we're just a mishmash of a bunch of different things thrown together. Batman v Superman was just extremely long and didn't have very good pacing at times. This movie wasn't like that. This movie was a good turnaround for the DCEU. So here we go. I'm going to talk about some good things about this movie, and then I'm going to talk about some of the things I had a problem with. And if you're here in the chat, jump down in the comments. Let me know what you think. Too many Christmas cookies. Let me know what you guys think about Aquaman. So some of the good things about this movie. The CGI is incredible in this movie. Like, James Wan and his team of editors did an awesome job with this. The underwater scenes, even the not underwater scenes, just everything in this movie, CGI was fantastic. They did a good job with that. This movie was an awesome introduction to the city of Atlantis, which is such a big role in the DC universe. Some people don't realize how big a role Atlantis plays in their world, and this was a good introduction to that city. The only thing I wish was that we had spent more time there. Like, I couldn't help but think about like Black Panther. You know, if any of you who have seen Black Panther, it was an awesome introduction to the city of Wakanda. And the entire story was more or less based in Wakanda. I wish Aquaman had been more like that. I wish that we had spent most of the movie in Atlantis itself, or just like around Atlantis, just so that we could get more of a feel for the city. As it was, there was only like about 20 minutes to half an hour that actually took place in Atlantis. So I wish they had spent more time there. But other than, it was just a good introduction to the city. The battle scenes underwater were phenomenal because, you know, once again, this is a spoiler review. So the scene where Arthur is fighting Orm for the right to the throne underwater in the big arena and everyone's watching, that was absolutely incredible. The choreography was amazing. The effects of them swimming and fighting at the same time, I thought were great. That was the one thing I was concerned about with this movie, was how are they going to make it look like they're actually underwater when they're fighting? Like, how are they going to make them look practically weightless? What's the choreography going to look like? They did a good job of making it seem realistic, and I was just enthralled by it. It was absolutely amazing. So if you're just joining us, we're reviewing Aquaman, spoiler review. If you haven't seen the movie yet, better get out now. If you have, stick around. We're talking about some of the good things about this movie. Another great thing that I loved about this movie was definitely the relationships between the children and the parents. More specifically, Black Manta and his father, and Aquaman and his mother. They didn't really develop Aquaman and his mother that much, but Black Manta and his father, even with the short amount of time that they were together on screen, you could tell right away, all right, even though these guys are, technically doing bad things, they're in it together and they always got each other's backs. They're true family. As far as Aquaman and his mother, I wish we had spent a little bit more time developing their relationship. But for the most part, the scene where Aquaman sees her again for the first time in 20 years, that was a pretty big scene to me, at least. I know some people were saying that kind of fell flat because it didn't develop their relationship that much. But to me, I felt that was a good scene. So you guys let me know in the chat, what do you think about the scenes between Aquaman and his mother and Black Manta and his father? Now let's move on to some of the things I think they could have done better in the movie. I kind of just mentioned it before. Some of the emotional scenes fell a bit short, specifically when they were trying to develop the relationship between Aquaman and Mera. I felt that it was kind of rushed at some points, like, oh, they're holding hands, and she fell into his arms, and their conversation on the boat, like, no, you have to be a king, Arthur. I kind of felt it fell a bit short, but it didn't really degrade the movie overall, so it wasn't that big of a deal. And like I said, the emotional scenes between Black Manta and his father, when Black Manta's trying to free his father from underneath the submarine, I thought that was a pretty heavy scene. The scene where Atlanta and Tom, Aquaman's father, see each other again for the first time in 20 years, that one I almost teared up at. Just a little bit, had a little bit of tears forming behind the eyes there. But other than that, I felt the emotional scenes kind of fell a bit short. And let's move on to my biggest gripe with this movie, and I'm sure a lot of you agree with me. I did not like how they used Black Manta in this movie. Didn't like it. Didn't like it at all. The costume was amazing. The actor, I forget his name. Someone's gonna have to tell me. I forget his name. Whoever played Black Manta. The actor did a pretty decent job, but I didn't like how he was used. He was like this side villain, like this crony to Orm throughout the movie. And I was just like, that's not Black Manta. Black Manta is supposed to be Aquaman's arch nemesis. And that's not how he was being used. So here's what I think they should have done. They should have kept the scene in the submarine where Aquaman takes out the pirates and leaves Black Manta's father to die. Leave that in there. That's a good setup scene. Leaving the scene where Orm is trying to pay Black Manta for his help, and he's just like, no, keep your money. I want to kill Aquaman. Leave that scene in there. Other than that, I think don't think they should have used that character anymore, because what you just did was you just set up Black Manta as the main villain for the Aquaman sequel. Now it doesn't feel like he's being shoehorned into this movie. Instead of having be like, instead of Orm saying, I'll have you lead my team of commandos, go and kill Aquaman and Mera. You'll be the guy that does my dirty work for me. Instead of having that, have this movie be a setup for Black Manta. Have him be the main villain in Aquaman 2. That might still be what they do. They might still give us Aquaman 2. They might still have Black Manta be the main villain, but the experience has already been detracted from me. I've already lost interest in Black Manta because of how they used him. He was just like this little secondary villain that's like, oh, I'm gonna go in and kill Aquaman. Yeah, it's like, not what Black Manta's supposed to be. But overall, that was the biggest thing that I had a problem with. You guys jump down in the comments. Let me know what you guys think about how they used Black Manta. I think they could have used him better. That's just me personally. All right, let's get to talk about some characters now. Let's talk about some of the characters. Let's start off with the man himself, Jason Momoa. Jason Momoa is Aquaman. Whatever movie I see Jason Momoa in now, and I'm definitely a big fan of his, whatever movie I see him in, I will never be able to not see him as Aquaman. He is just like Hugh Jackman will always be Wolverine, just like Robert Downey Jr. will always be Iron Man. Jason Momoa will now always be Aquaman, at least to me. That's how I feel. He did such a phenomenal job of bringing like this hip, cool, sailor guy vibe to Aquaman. Like instead of the starchy, kind of cocky, kind of arrogant personality we get from Aquaman in the comics, he instead brought this relatable personality to it. It's like, hey, this is just a guy you could meet out when you're out getting a drink. Like you could literally meet Aquaman in real life and you'd have no idea that he's this big superhero. He was just like a regular guy. And that's one of the biggest things, I think. That's one of the most important things in this movie, is that Aquaman could have been your friend. I think I definitely related to that. So Jason Momoa did an awesome job as Aquaman. Props to him, man. I can't wait to see what they're going to do next with that character. Amber Heard as Mira. I thought she did a phenomenal job. I thought she looked gorgeous in this movie. The red wig was a little bit out there. I think they could have toned down the red a little bit, but then some people would argue, well, that's not really comic accurate. I felt the red hair was a little bit over the top. They could have dialed that back a little bit, but she did a good job. Good acting. Loved the fight scenes with her. Loved the hydrokinesis. I loved the way they presented that. That was awesome. I just loved the banter back and forth between her and Aquaman. Like the scene when they're in the ship and they're fleeing Orm's men trying to get out of the city, and Aquaman's like, "Oh, we got bogeys on our 6." And she just goes, "What does that even mean?" And he says, "There are bad guys behind us." I loved the banter between the two of them. I thought it just added an overall lightheartedness to the movie. So, well done to Amber Heard playing Mira. But let's talk about one of the biggest surprises that I had from this movie. That was Orm. I did not expect to like Orm as much as I did. I just thought it was going to be like, okay, Ocean Master's the main villain. Good choice. All right. Can't wait to see Aquaman whoop his ass. I actually felt some sympathy for Orm. And I could see where he was coming from. Also, the actor that played him was phenomenal. Projected that arrogant personality that is Orm perfectly. But just, I felt that you could actually see things from his point of view. You could understand where he was coming from. All of a sudden, this guy from the surface, who was the result of an affair from your mom and some other surface dweller, all of a sudden shows up and challenging you for the throne that you've had for most of your life. Like, see it from his point of view. You'd be pretty pissed too if that was happening. So I can understand where Orm was coming from. Actor did it phenomenally. I also there were some points where I was like, okay, this guy's out of control. He's an asshole, and I don't like him. But there were other moments where I was like, oh, yeah, I can see where you're coming from, Orm. I can see where you're coming from. If you're just joining us, we're doing a spoiler review of Aquaman. Make sure you leave a like, leave some thoughts in the chat about the movie. What did you think about it? We're talking about Orm right now and how much I actually enjoyed his performance in the movie. And I was surprised at how much I could see things from his point of view. But that was just me. Let me know your thoughts about Orm in the comments down below or in the chat. Let's talk about Volko now. Let's talk about Volko. I think they could have used him just a little bit differently. One, I think they could have shown a few more scenes of him and Arthur in the past, training and growing up, and Volko teaching Arthur the ways of Atlantis. I think they could have done a little bit more with that instead of the 2 that we got. But still, I thought Volko was a good touch. They definitely captured, the father figure essence with him. And I think he was a good addition to the movie. I wish they had done a little bit more setup between the two of them. That way I could just understand the relationship a little bit more. But other than that, good job to Volko. So just to give you guys a quick recap, if you're just joining us, I see we have some new people in the chat. Jason Momoa's performance as Aquaman was off the charts. I absolutely loved it. Amber Heard as Mira was amazing as well. Loved the chemistry between her and Jason Momoa on screen. Orm was the dark horse that I had no idea was going to be so awesome in this movie. And I thought Volko was a good touch. I thought they did a good job. And now let's reopen the can of worms I opened earlier about Black Manta. The actor that played Black Manta in this movie did a really, really good job. I enjoyed when he was on screen. Every single time Black Manta came on screen, I was like, oh, okay, what's going to go down now? Once again, though, I did not enjoy how they used him in this movie. He was like a side villain. He was a crony. He was a henchman to Orm the entire time. That's not what Black Manta is supposed to be per se. And some versions, Black Manta is a kind of like a right-hand man to Orm, but he always had his own plans. He was never just like, I'm gonna follow you, Orm, because I want to kill Aquaman. That's never what he was in the comics. He always was. He had his own end game. He had his own goals. Wasn't like that in this movie. Wasn't like that. So I was a little disappointed in that. However, his suit was absolutely incredible. I loved the suit. And some people have a problem where they're like, oh, how did he suddenly get the technological expertise to take apart the gun, the plasma ray gun, and remake it into a helmet? Like, where did he get that from? Well, we didn't know his entire origin. The first time we see Black Manta is when he's pirating the submarine. So we have no idea what his backstory is and how much technological and engineering expertise he really has. So I just chalk that up as we don't know all of his backstory. And now, how is he able to make the helmet so quickly? We don't know how long it took him. In my opinion, it probably took him quite a few days to make that helmet. Probably took him quite a bit of trial and error. When the finished product, though, looked like it was ripped straight from the comics. Well done to James Wan and his team of costume designers for making that, because it looked like it was ripped straight from the comics. Yes, some people were saying, oh, it looks so corny. Like, well, it's so gigantic. Why couldn't they like adapt it like they did in all the other movies? I was like, okay, listen, it looks like it's ripped straight from the comics, and it's amazing. I love it. I love it. I thought it was awesome. So that's my opinion on Black Manta. Good character development between him and his father. I really felt the anguish that he felt when he was trying to free him from underneath the submarine. Good on to them for that scene. Now, let's talk about some of the other corny stuff in this movie. Like, those of you who saw this movie, you guys already know this. It was not a traditional superhero movie where it was grounded in reality. This was not grounded in reality at all. There was a whole bunch of things that was like, wait, what? That could never happen in real life. For example, the octopus playing the drums at the single combat between Arthur and Orm. that was pretty corny. The line at the end where Aquaman's jumping out of the water and it looks so heroic. It's like, I am Aquaman. I was like, that was pretty corny. What else? Ocean Master's helmet looked pretty corny. However, it still worked. I still enjoyed it. If I can enjoy the Black Manta costume, I can enjoy Orm's costume. I still enjoyed that. So I thought that the Ocean Master's helmet, it looked a little corny. Maybe they shouldn't have made the red eyes. Maybe they shouldn't have had that. But it worked for me. I still thought it worked. Sharks with torpedoes placed on it. Pretty corny. Other than that, good, solid movie. If you enjoy that kind of thing, if you enjoy that kind of like fantasy, adventure, not realistic at all type of superhero movie, Aquaman is the movie for you. If you don't like that sort of thing and you like the more of a Marvel formula where it's grounded in reality and all the characters, are relatable, probably not the movie for you. Here's how I would describe it best. How many of you have watched that old Justice League cartoon that came out? Let me know in the chat. Like Justice League Unlimited and the cartoon that came before that. The one that followed Superman the Animated Series and Batman the Animated Series. How many of you guys have seen that? Let me know in the chat or let me know in the comments. I felt Aquaman followed the formula they used for that old cartoon very closely. Because in the cartoon, there's a whole bunch of stuff that you would find hard to believe. This wouldn't happen in real life. Oh, this and that. I felt they did that. And it worked. It worked really well. Because obviously they tried the more realistic approach with Batman v Superman and Justice League. They tried that already. And it didn't work. People didn't accept it. So now they're trying the other route. Well, We're going to go back to how it used to be. We're going to go back to how it was in the comics, where there was stuff that would blow your mind, with it's stuff that could never be real in this world. And for me, it worked. I thought it was awesome. I felt like a little kid again watching the old Justice League cartoon. All they needed to give Aquaman was a harpoon hand, and then everything would have been perfect. So that's my overall thoughts on this movie. Let me give you guys an overall rating right now. Out of 5 stars, I would give this movie 4 out of 5. I thought it had good characters, awesome CGI. The battle scenes were awesome. Some of the emotional scenes fell short. Did not like how Black Manta was used in this movie. So because of that, I'm going to drop it down to 4 out of 5 stars, which is still a really respectable score. I only gave Justice League like 3 out of 5, some maybe even 2.5. So this is a big step up for the DC movie universe after all that's happened so far. Can't wait to see what happens next. Next up, I believe the next one that's coming out is Shazam. And I can't wait to see Shazam. I think that's going to be awesome. I think it's going to be just like Aquaman, where it's like fantasy-based, following like the Justice League cartoon formula, not grounded in reality, very, very unrealistic. I hope it's going to be like that. And then after that, we have Wonder Woman 84, which I heard that Cheetah is going to be in. And for me, I think that's awesome. I'm glad they didn't use her in the first Wonder Woman, because Cheetah is obviously Wonder Woman's arch nemesis, but she needed to come later. They need to set up Wonder Woman's character first. So well done to Warner Brothers for what they did with Aquaman. And you know what's funny? What they did with this movie, it screamed confidence. They were extremely sure they had a hit on their hands. They knew that they had turned it around. They knew that they were doing better with this movie than they normally did, because they gave the advanced screenings for Amazon Prime They gave the advanced screenings for Amazon Prime members. They released reviews for it way earlier than they normally do. So good on Warner Brothers. Keep this up. Keep this up, and you're going to have some real hits on your hands. So let me turn it over to you guys now. I see we have some people watching. I see you guys there on the icon on the screen. I want you guys to jump in the chat. Let me talk with you guys. Let me see what you think about Aquaman the movie. Let me see if anybody answers. And while we're waiting, I just want to talk about some of my favorite moments from this movie. 1, the first scene on the submarine, which was the first scene where we see Aquaman, the submarine scene. Loved that scene. It was awesome. Definitely set up a good, nice little intro to Aquaman when he jumps down or into the submarine. He turns around and just says, "Permission to come aboard." I thought it was awesome. 2, I loved the scene, the battle in Sicily. The battle in Sicily, Mira versus the Aqua soldiers, and Aquaman versus Black Manta. Loved that scene. Good battle, good choreography, very good. Now, here's one that might surprise you. My second favorite scene in this movie, so if we're going in order, my 4th favorite scene was the scene on the submarine where we first see Aquaman. 3rd favorite scene is the battle in Sicily. My 2nd favorite scene was the battle between Atlanta and the Aqua soldiers when they first arrived to take her back to Atlantis in the beginning of the movie. I thought that battle scene was phenomenal. Phenomenal. Because it's so hard to film something like that, where it's close quarters. You know, the camera doesn't have a lot of room to move. You're in a house, and there's a whole bunch of people attacking one person. Those types of battle scenes are hard to film. And they did an awesome job. James Wan did an awesome job directing that scene. And I was blown away by it. I was like, well, if this is what the battle scenes are going to be like throughout this movie, then I'm sold. And they were progressively throughout the movie. And my favorite scene, I'm sure you guys have already guessed, was the scene where Aquaman explodes up out of the ocean on top of the Kraken, or whatever that undersea water monster was. That was the first thing I thought when I saw that big sea creature that he came up from underneath the ocean on. I thought, release the Kraken! Release the Kraken! I immediately thought Kraken right away. So that was my absolute favorite scene. I was like, oh my gosh. I thought that was absolutely incredible. So those are my 4 favorite scenes. If I were to give a 5th favorite scene, I would probably say the single combat between Arthur and Orm. Although, like I said, some of the stuff in that scene was a little bit corny. But that would probably be my 5th favorite one. So going in order, 5th favorite scene, Aquaman versus Orm, single combat. 4th favorite scene was the submarine scene where Arthur first appears. 3rd favorite scene was the battle in Sicily. 2nd favorite scene was Atlanta fighting the Aqua soldiers inside the lighthouse. And my favorite scene was when Arthur appeared on the Kraken. Well, there you have it, guys. That's pretty much all I have to talk about Aquaman. Good, solid movie. I give it 4 out of 5 stars. Once again, last chance for you guys watching. Hop in the chat, interact with me. We'll have a good little talk about the movie. If you're watching the replay, make sure you jump down into the comments. Let me know your thoughts on Aquaman. I thought it was incredible. Big turnaround for the DCEU. Let me know your thoughts. I love chatting with you guys. It's one of my favorite things about doing this YouTube channel is being able to interact with people that are a lot like me that just love superhero movies. So I really appreciate you guys being here and watching. If you made it this far, if you made it all the way to the end, let's do this. Let's find out how many of you guys watching the replay made it all the way to the end. If you made it all the way to the end, I want you guys to type in the comments #made it. #made it in the comments if you watched this entire live stream. All right, let's see how many people actually do it. If it's 0, I'm going to be really disappointed. That pretty much does it, guys. Thank you so much for hanging out with me on this Christmas Eve. I hope you guys have a very, very Merry Christmas. Cherish the time that you have with your family because you never know. Just like in Aquaman, you never know when something might happen. You never. Sorry to make it a little bit dark there, but you never know when something might happen there. So cherish the time you have with your family. Give a lot on this Christmas. It's always about giving. And I'll see you guys in the next video. I'll catch you later.